Welcome everyone to my podcast show, Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond. In this particular week, I will be focusing on my director clip notes, focusing on episode 26, 27, 28, and 29 from season 1 for my first season 1 of 2017 to 2018. Let's begin. For this week of my episode director's clip notes, starting with episode 26. Okay, so this would be episode 26, and then I will move on to episode 27, 28, and 29. Episode 26 was published on May the 7th. That was entitled Queen Hagar Remember Moments of Before. For this week episode of 26, entitled Queen Hagar Remember Moments of Before, published on May the 7th from season 1. Then episode 27, published on May 14, entitled Betrayal is Among Thee. Then episode 28 was published on May 21st, entitled Many Aspire for the Star of Mitsrayim. Then for episode 29, it was published on May 28, entitled Bountiful is Thee amongst the Mitsrayim King. So let's get started with the first episode 26, entitled Queen Hagar Remember Moments of Before. I really loved this episode. It just made you really go back in time, right? And it really focused on putting the pieces together leading up to this war that started this whole podcast. In a sense, the first scene that I saw, which was in episode 1, and how Queen Hagar was the sole ruler at that time. In this particular episode, Queen Hagar Remember Moments of Before, we're able to get more into her history, right, to her background. And so I opened the scene talking about what I see, the vision that I saw. And what I saw was, out of the shadows, here we hear horses, and horses are pulling a royal chariot, that the transportation of that time to get to one place to another, right? And the flickering of lights that bounce off a lot of military rank officers that was special. It seems like King Mahlon had different levels, of course. Some was his closer type military man that he had on within his army, and then the general at that time, General Tekun. That's the first time I'm mentioning this character. It's spelled Tekun. Keep a note of that. It's going to come up again. He's going to come up again. So we don't hear nothing too much about Comrade Data. I'm spelling that J as in Jack, E-T-U-R. But here it's only General Tekun. So evidently something, of course, happened from the time of this moment to the time of the war, and King Mahlon was severely hurt. And we opened that scene in episode 1. But for right now, he is the general, okay? And he is pretty much related later on, knowing about this woman is Queen Hagar. She goes to this outskirt or part of the Sudan, and she goes see a man that you introduce of his name of Rulin. Now, Rulin is pretty much coming up again in season 2. Remember him. He's going to be an important person in the sense of this story, of timeline moving on. I'm spelling his name R-U-L-E-N. And it seems that they knew one another, because he gasped when he realized who was this woman, that the general from Mitsrayim, coming in this middle of the night into his domain, into his clay-filled hut, right? And so as he gasped, he couldn't believe that he saw Queen Hagar. You could tell of the history and the feelings that he have for her, but still in the same respect of this, I don't know, maybe you could say competition between him and King Mahlon. But at any rate, you see that, because it is said then, after he realized it's her, he gasps, and he said, "Nice is it indeed," meaning it's nice to see her. And she goes on to say why she's here. She said, "Asete Rulin, I need to speak to you this shadow hour. I came for knowledge that only you know deep in the mines of old." Because back then in ancient times, those mines deep like Zimbabwe, deep in the south, of gold and different minerals was of high regard. So it was ancient and timeless in that. And so he knows something of the people rising up against King Mahlon. So he would turn back and said to her, "Why have you entered here?" still with the sage of Mahlon, the king of Mitsrayim. Because Mitsrayim, again, that is a prestigious place. That's a lot of history connected to Sama. And when he said the sage of Mahlon, that was me phrasing it in a way of his wisdom and his influence, or of her heart with King Mahlon. You saw how I put that in there, but I was still moving the story along to show the history between the two. So he was responding back, that is not what is of now. So she's on business on the behalf of the king and to find out before the outbreak of the war, okay? And goes back and forth, and she put something on his table. Make a note of that, because she did pick it up, but one of the guards did before they left. And so she was just frustrated because he just did not want to give up any information, and plus he seemed very reclusive, and you could tell he didn't really like Mahlon because hey, she chose Mahlon at any rate. So that happened. So Rulon said something else, yet I will always remember this moment. So he said that to her when she decided to leave. But she said something key that I really love, that line. And she said, Yete, I do not feel the same. Duty comes first before the heart. I'm going to repeat. Duty comes first before the heart. Where really is yours? And then, of course, she woke up from that moment of murmuring that. Fast forward, we will get to know more about Rulon. And I guess the competition between him and King Mahlon. We're going to know some history about that history between the two, but as well as Rulon and his ties to the South. Because I also want to know something else that he said, and I'm trying to get there now, that I liked. Yeah, when she said, look, I'm here to find out who was forging this union against King Mahlon. Who forged this union to the north. That's what she said. You got to remember that, because in the first episode of this season 2, it was Hani of the Orions, the High Council member of Ukinton, said to Nichel to take this message to the northern mountains, to someone there in the north, right? In the mountains in the north of the Sudan. That's what he was telling Nichel to do. And then you see in his memory, Queen Hagar said to Rulon, what was of us was the time of children play. That's when he was probably just saying, don't you remember us? Don't you remember what we had? I can't believe that you're going to choose a ruler of Mitsrayim. You're going to choose him over me. Pretty much that's what he was saying, okay? He haven't seen her in so long, he don't know what to do, okay? He's trying to manage this, but he going where he know what's brewed up, and plus trying to, I don't know, win her heart back in that list couple of seconds, which not going to happen, but hey, he was trying. And so she was just saying, you got to focus on what's important. You got to help me. This is my life now, and our friendship will always be honored, but I need to know those of the southern region has moved against Mitsrayim, my king. That's what she said. So you see that loyalty she has for King Mahlon, right? And she said, who forced this union to the north? Okay, and that's when she removed an object from her hand and put it on the table. What is that object? That's what you got to find out. That has not been revealed yet. Ruler didn't pick it up. He didn't say nothing, but he seemed nervous when he saw that object that she put on the table. And he responded back to this. He said, this is not of the now. You should go, Queen Hagar. There are many against your beloved King Mahlon. Secrets run deep in the south of the Sudan. I love that line. I'm just going to admit it to you. I love the line. I really do. I really loved it. It was good. It was good. And she was just frustrated. She's like, okay, fine. I'm out of this. I'm out of here. So since you're not going to assist Mitsrayim, you got to think forward. You got to think what your father would do, what your uncle would do, as I put it there. Do the right thing. But Rulon wasn't happening. So that really was a good scene, and I do recommend that you go and check that out. Again, that was episode 26. It will publish on May the 7th of 2018. May the 7th, and it was entitled Queen Hagar, Remember Moments of Before. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next episode, episode 27. With episode 27, titled Betrayal is Among Thee. It was published on May the 14th, 2018. In this particular episode, we really focus on the two. There was another scene thereafter that went into if you were a paid patron, you got access to that. So I'm going to talk a little bit what those nuggets were, in a sense, to kind of give you an idea of considering to be a patron to get the full short story. But at any rate, let's focus on what was released publicly of my short story. Again, for episode 27, Natu, we are entering this part of Sudan in the West Bank, and stated that, but I'm going to recap what I said when I did that short story. I started off by saying that Natu went to the West Bank of the Sudan, deep in the lineage from what will be called in future generations the Congo. So to kind of give you an emphasis of where he moved to, in a sense, to set up his next plan to be the lead, the supreme leader of this whole new regime to go against King Mahlon for Mitsrayim. So we see Natu in this secret location where he's meeting what we are being called of this tribal group, or basically we're calling it the heighten tribal members. For some reason, this particular community of leaders and of power of these regimes in this particular area of the Sudan, Natu was granted a meeting with them to get their allegiance, to get their support for him to make the next move. What that move would be, we don't know, but we definitely know that Natu is definitely going to be at the top and want Echo out, because then you get to hear later Natu was approved to go ahead and speak in front of them, and Natu just laid it out. And I said something in this regard as one of the council of the Congeto members. What brings you here to bring this before us? And Natu, as I said, Natu spoke with ease as spilling water from old. That gave you clue that he's letting him know more of the dealings of what Echo had planned and what his plans moving forward, that they can actually win this time. Because we got to understand, they didn't really, it was a big war and it was a battle, but they didn't take control of Mitsrayim. King Mahlon was hurt, but not knocked out. Okay, so it was still standing strong. So they're now coming to the next phase. Natu continued and said, I am alone in this mission to secure what you seek of King Mahlon. So that right there was the theme of that episode. Betrayal is among thee. So Echo and Lanko, that in last season really wasn't, he had a couple of scenes, Lanko did, but not a lot. It was mostly Echo. And that's the quilted web of deception, betrayal that Natu solidified in that moment. It went on when the Congeto members, the Council of the Congeto members, gasped to hear that this right here will definitely divide the once community of tribal leaders following Echo into Natu. Now, it was says, well, what do you actually propose in that sense? They was asking him, put it out there, because this move of following me, I could get you to what you want. The Council of Congeto members was gaps like, with this would push out Echo. So they already knew if they decided to follow him to make the move of what they wish to achieve, which this is where the issue of what is the Asta, because then that's where Neto responded back to them and said, it is the power, I need the power of the military, but I need your support for the mission for the Asta. And that right there kind of triaged to them to consider that this would be a big move. Are you ready for it, Natu, to lead it? Natu responded in this response. He said, time changes for those that will not move. I will share where Echo hides beneath the Apsu. Now, I say the Apsu a lot instead of days, instead of sun, but that's what Apsu means. ASPU. Apsu means the sun. At any rate, that's what he had said. So the Congo mentors first was like, I don't know. But then they just felt that feeling and that knowing that the wind has changed and perhaps Natu is the one. So they all agreed to follow Natu. And at that moment of that particular clip, I said, Natu nodded as the deed was done, and he could feel the power seep through within that he sought for a long, long time. So even in episode 2 from episode 1, I share how Natu always had this kind of, just got to put it out there, some arrogance of that, some feeling of entitlement of his rank, of his military years. We don't know his full background, but we know that he'd been in the military within the Orions universe in a long time, and that he demands respect. And something happened to have him to fall, because even in the beginning, when he had to go back to Echo and notify them that Queen Hagar is in charge, Mitsrayim is still standing strong, even with one ruler. We don't know where Mitsrayim, but we feel that as King Mahlon is not off the scene completely, that he felt more of a second rank or a third rank. And so this right here, that moment was mean. He did the deed, he did the betrayal of that for bringing him back to his esteemed level that he feel that prestigious he need to be. Now, moving from that, I also went into back to Mitsrayim, and I'm talking about on the deck that you will see. I said on the deck they are about 14 levels high in the Royal Abbas Palace, along with 12 royal guards. And then I mentioned about Queen Hagar. She is meditating, all right, with her father and mother, and during the early dawn of the day, and I'm calling it the dawn of Absu, talking about, of course, that the day is just starting, right? And they have plans to visit King Mahlon. Well, I also got into that. This is getting into part that I do not share, and it goes into the remaining of the short story, and you have to become a patron of the podcast, which I have a link regarding that. That's on my Patreon page, that you get access to the whole full short stories of these clip snippets that I release. I just mentioned that suddenly a moment of a memory broke through her concentration and meditation. The meditation back then, and I had that in my book, is similar to the prayer that we do today. We call it prayer. And it's a spiritual type, as people know what meditation is. But back then it was very highly used constantly, not to bring up the higher self, but connected to the primary creator of all things. But it also triggered and can always open up, to describe it like a vortex of a connecting of what was and what's now, and even to the future. That's what triggered this memory to break through. And it was just flashes of old, as I say, flashes of images we told of before to Queen Hagar came through. That's what I showed, and then it kind of definitely went into the part that I did not release, and that's part of the short story for that. All right, so that's right there was 27. Let's move on to 28. 28 was entitled Many Aspire for the Star of Mitsrayim. This was published on May the 21st. So this was a good episode too, because from the last one, 27, the betrayal was basically in the two, talking about setting it up and betraying Echo. And then of course I gave a little insight back in Mitsrayim, back in Egypt, where we have Queen Hagar. She has a memory. That really memory that I didn't really show completely, and other information that was coming through was to set up a next future scene, right? But this right here, episode 28, entitled Many Aspire for the Star of Mitsrayim. This where we get to actually get into the tribal leaders, okay? I talk about them, this and that. I think in season 2 it's gonna come up. We're gonna know more of those players. Now in season 1, the first one that came through that pretty much was identified as an enemy of Mitsrayim, his name was Sanel. That was in episode 8. That's when Kamar Data, after he walked out in the 2 from seeing Queen Hagar in episode 1, and then he got that message for one of his comrades, that in this message that he read, and that he left to go see this tribal leader. His name was Sanel, Sanel. And fast forward, you're going to hear more of him and also other tribal leaders. So in this episode, episode 28, Many Aspire for the Star of Mitsrayim, here we are able to see the tribal leaders coming together after Natu put it down. If you follow me, you're going to get what you want to get. Okay, to change rank. Okay, they don't know that in the future team how that's going to flower out with Echo being off the scene, but they all come together and they have a talk amongst themselves, talking about them again in the sense the high congregational tribal leaders. They are the higher rank, and then you have the sub tribal leaders, but then they have the man, okay, the army or what have it, to gather together. So in this, I kind of just describe what's going on and how they're talking back and forth for what they should do. And it's one of them that I kind of bring out to light. His name is Renti. I'm spelling it Wenti. Pay attention because he's going to come back to you in season 2. But pretty much he set the tone by saying, we came for sure, you all agreed to the mission forward. Let me recap. Rento was there and present with other of these tribal leaders as over the actual man that will support Natu in the army that he's building up. And so one of the leaders says of the Congeto, these are guards that's coming in. They are from the high Congeto tribal leaders, guards, to gather together and make sure, are you all accountable for, right? So we came here, as one of the guards main leader said, we came here to be sure, are you all in agreement, right, to the mission forward. And I mentioned Winty. He's the only name that I kind of mentioned out that character. And Winty said and nodded with the others. But he felt a sense that this can lead to some more trouble beyond what they think, especially if it fails through and Natu, is not able to bring the promise to what he said he's going to bring forward. So when it was about to leave, he said to another tribal member of the council, okay, not the high council Congeto members, they're off scene, and they instructed their high guards to go further into the Congo, as we will call it later in generations in the future, to gather up those other sub-level, those other second rank leaders of the tribes, and to make sure they are in alignment to gather their people, right, that they want to do. So Winter said, he says, surely we should take care in the matter if the seeds leads back to us, for we are not as strong as the great Mitsrayim to conquer. Winty hesitated, saying to a fellow tribal leader at that time, at that moment. But the person responded back, I didn't say his name, he responded back to say, not to be concerned of what is not here. We have the Orions deep on our side of the Sudan. So you definitely see that they're still brewing, of course, and you see these characters come out. The key for you as you're tuning into this podcast is to find who actually is on whose side and who is connected to what. Because remember, I mentioned earlier in my return for season 2, in the book, the Orion name was Kishi, and I haven't connected one of these people back to him because he's the big player of the Orion in the book and will be in the stage play when I return, the prestige return of the stage play. So this right here sets it up as you see that the movement of Natu, the support, is coming together. And by the time you get this episode, you are already able to see the episode with Natu as he's getting, he's very, very he's in his little place, his new, as he say, sub kingdom or whatever, and he's getting in position to his next move as he get more supporters following him as Echo is off the scene. So that's with that, because Winto nodded in agreement. This person in episode 28, okay, I'm going to follow, I'm going to do what you say, you're right, this is going to work out, I'm going to push the hesitant to the side, because you got to know Egypt is very, especially during that time, was the height of their power, and even the mystic and the power, and that they were able to subdue and to gather, and their influence is very more than prestige, you could say. And so the armies that they had, and so that was the fear, but they felt that this Orion could bring them to what they need and what they wanted for the star of Mitsrayim. That's what they kept mentioning. Now, also, I gave another more information to this short story that you have to become a patron to get the rest. Plus, I went into the king chambers at this moment on this episode 28. Many aspire for the star of Mitsrayim, where it is King Mahlon, and he was just briefed by Tahib and Taznah with his other secret spies within the army regarding the southeast of Congeto unusual movement. So just as those high council Congeto members met Natu, and then they put out the order for their guards to go out and gather up those tribal leaders on that third rank, you hear and you see the effect that it got back to King Mahlon, because pebbles of the feet can lead to information going back, and people talking whatever or not talking or giving some clue to some movement. So they felt some movement in that area, that something is going on, something is happening. Okay, so Kamra Data also revealed a rolled up papyrus to King Mahlon. Now I didn't share all of that because that's going into the patron part. If you're a patron, you get that information. So that was also part of episode 28. So I do recommend that you go back and check that out. That was a good one. Now we're going to get to episode 29. That's the finale. That is called Bountiful is Thee Amongst a Mitsrayim King. That was published on the last episode for my season 1, the last day of my episode from season 1, on May the 28th. That's when it was published. That is an episode you need to go see. Okay, you need to go listen to. Okay, that one right there, where King Mahlon from episode 28, at the end of the day, got the information of Echo, and that he was one of the star players of the whole regime coming up against creating a full war, not just a battle, but it was a war that took place. But it was major, and his location, which we fast forward, that Echo was the first to get the notice that King Mahlon survived, he's well, and he's back on the scene, and you're the first one I'm going to take care of. Hint, so that means in the future it will be more people coming to the front that King Mahlon is going to discover and address it. So that's what you see with that. So yeah, with episode 29, Bountiful is Thee, you get a lot of course, it's the episode, the finale, but a lot of information in to see of how powerful Queen Hagar and King Mahlon is, both individually and together. So we see in that particular episode that you got a lot, okay? And some of the scenes were taken out because, of course, you got to be a patron to get the full short story, but some of the scenes was faded out. So I definitely highlight to go check that out. Also on your YouTube channel, you can go to our YouTube channel, MOLIAE YouTube channel, and you can see I released the visual experience to that. And that's a very good presentation. You can actually enjoy the podcast, but you can enjoy it in a visual aspect, on a mobile device or any type of those smart TVs that you have. So did you see that they basically, the word came back and King Mahlon got the notice of where Echo was at, and it was a surprise. And you see some of the scenes where even then Echo did not want to bow in front of Queen Hagar, and something happens that I can't share with you because that was faded out, like I said, part of the patron program there to get that, and where he completely flips and says, okay, I seen enough. I know I ain't playing with just anybody. Let me go ahead and do what I needed to, give you the information that you seek, because he know by then it was over of trying to overtake or do anything, because they came to his domain. Go ask him some questions and wanted to know why he was here, why they're going after her husband, King Mahlon. What's the issue? What is the objective for Mitsrayim? And so Echo gave a little this and that and so forth. Then King Mahlon came into the cave, let it out, and say, communicated, okay, now you were looking for me, you was trying to take me out, because earlier, or at least you will find out by now, by the time you get this episode, this director clip, is where Kamra Data, during the battle, it was Echo that he was on the battlefield, okay, at this particular moment, and he was the one that tried to take King Mahlon out. It was Kamra Data that jumped in front of the arrow that could have been really, really bad for King Mahlon. See, that builds up to Kamra Data, his loyalty and his prestige position within the family that made him Kamra at a young age. And that's why King Mahlon had said that your ties to Fathum is no more. We don't know what Fathum means, but he said that, and that's Fathun. Your ties to Fathum is no more. This is the day you see me, to say you tried, you know what I'm saying, but you did not win, and I'm still standing. Okay, I will get the last word. And again, this Fathum that came through me, I'm not sure who or what, but it means something when King Mahlon said that. And then King Mahlon said, it was a mighty move against me that day. It was a very good day for my Kamra Data to be as well. Your plan to push me out of this world did not go as so. So there where you see the intention and the plot of what Echo was trying to do. Right? Because Echo's from in the military too, and how King Mahlon let it known, I'm still standing. I'm looking to finish this, but I will have the last word. That's what he said when he started smiling with this ancient sword he had. It says, words of you of an old warrior indeed. When Echo responded back after King Mahlon said, it was a mighty move against me that day. And then Echo came back and said, things of old change for the new. And then that's when King Mahlon was said back to him, were words of you of an old warrior indeed. But it's still not going to fly. He's going to get the last word there. Okay. And that's basically what he did when he took the sword and so forth and used it. It was an ancient sword from his family lineage, King Mahlon, and that he was, using it in a way near Echo. Then your time is up. All right. So that was a very good episode. It had a lot of good nuggets in there. And that was really the takeaway. That was the return of Mahlon in the presence of his enemies. Okay. Isn't that something in life? You could just, take this as a life lesson. If you hold on and you have the belief in self and do good deeds lead to good things. And he's standing and came up from all those runes. If you go to episode 2, season 1, you will see that. And here he is instead of his enemies. All right. I always feel that the prime creator God always prints you up, prestige you up amongst those that want to take you down. And here he is telling Echo, you try to bring it, but I'm going to end it. I'm going to end this. And we get at the end of something happening where they're boarding up or putting up putting stones or closing up the cave. Echo does not come out, but King Mahlon and Queen Hagar does. So that's a very powerful. It's a quite long. I think it's like 15 or 16 minutes long of the first introduction to the finale. It's my finale, my first season, and then I go into the episode, which is you get a lot. But again, some of the scenes are faded out, but you got to go ahead and check out that video, the MOLIAE YouTube video for the finale, Bountiful is Thee Amongst the Mitsrayim King, which is episode 29. You got to check it out. Again, it was published on May the 28th. And so I do give a lot of goodies and some information to keep you informed of the bigger play and what's to come. It's definitely going to be King Mahlon going to the other. I'm just going to that's why you need to turn into these directed clips. I always giving out a little more nugget where he's definitely in the future in season 2. You can expect that he's going to meet up with the rest of the traitors, and he's going to definitely have the confrontation as now he's back on royal scene again. Okay, so that's what I wanted to kind of talk about, to highlight and to prepare you what's to come next. It's definitely something brewing with Natu. Lanko is back on the scene now more as Echo is out in the sense that he's not on the scene, and King Mahlon is back full stream. So we're going to see how he maneuver and handle the high Kageto council members. They were the one that gave this uproar in the sense of supporting Natu, expose Echo. King Mahlon is going to find out all of that and what led to the war, who started. He know Echo was one, but who? And then King Mahlon was in it too to find out more information from Echo, to find out what is going on. And pretty much Echo, revealed some of that, and that was some of it was faded out. It's in the patron part. If you're a patron member, you get the full episode of this. So thank you so much for joining me today for my director's clip for episode 27, 28, and 29 of my podcast show, Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond. Thank you so much, and you have a great day. So long.